on developments in finance and sustainability. We're very excited to have this 2-day webinar with all of you. And as I can see, we're already over 70 participants, which is wonderful. Just a quick thing about the name oiConference. The oi comes from Oikos, the student organization that Stephen and I have been involved with, which is focusing on sustainability in management and economics. And we're being supported also by Oikos International in this. So this is where the oiConference comes from, the oi. So the idea of this webinar is, it's the second one in a series that Stephen and I have started, and we want to focus on questions of how the sustainability matters are taken into consideration in the finance industry. And we have brought together here panels from composed of professionals working in the industry and activists, but also academics, to bring together various groups of people who really can bring a lot to bear on this question. Quickly on myself, I'm a PhD student in economics at the New School. And yeah, Stephen, do you maybe want to introduce yourself quickly as well?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Stephen Snyder. I'm a master's student at Harvard studying sustainability, and my background is in finance, and that's why I am very happy to have you all here so that we can learn about developments in sustainability and finance. And I'm really excited for this very interactive session. So get ready to learn, get ready to talk if you feel like you want to share, and I'll hand it back to you, Oliver.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephen. The title of this session is Climate Grief and Personal Change. If you've read the description, which is perfectly okay if you haven't, this session is not yet on the topic of finance per se, but we thought it would be really interesting to start off with something a little different that is getting us grounded kind of for these 2 days of focusing on a strong industry, to look at what are the emotional responses to questions of climate change, and that we can use in our approach to many of these things. So I'll quickly introduce Rabbi Katy Allen, who has put together this panel and the moderators. Rabbi Katy Allen is one of the co-conveners of the Jewish Climate Action Network, and which she has started in December of 2013 at Limud Boston. She is also the founder and spiritual leader of Mayan Tikva, a wellspring of hope. She began her career as a biology teacher, turned to writing and editing educational materials, and then started teaching Hebrew school and became involved in family and adult education before entering rabbinical school. Rabbi Katy Allen has put together a group of interfaith leaders to focus on the question of solastalgia or eco-anxiety. And please, Rabbi Katy Allen, take it. Oh, sorry, 2 more things. We have, my bad. We will conduct polls quickly so that we know where people are roughly from in this group. And you should see it on your screen right now. Please just fill in whatever is right. There are 3 questions. Wonderful. So as I don't think I'm going to comment it very much. You can all see it on your screens, since we don't have anyone who has come in via phone. And I think that will just give us a little bit of an idea of what are the what is the makeup of the group of people, over 110 by now, who have joined us for this session. And with that, I'll gladly give you the space, Rabbi Katy Allen. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I'm happy to be part of this. So I just want to say a few words in general about this topic, and then we're going to be breaking down into smaller groups. This whole idea, there's like new vocabulary in our language to describe the phenomenon of of having an difficult emotional response to environmental degradation and climate change. So it can be called eco-despair, it can be called eco-depression. There's also this new word, solastalgia, which comes from nostalgia. That's where they got the word from. And nostalgia is this sort of longing or homesickness for something that's gone, or that we're separated from, or something in the past. And so this is an expression of the distress that we experience in response to environmental change, when we're directly either through direct contact with something happening around us, or just hearing about something or knowledge about it. We don't actually have to personally be experiencing it to have these difficult emotions and emotional responses to what's going on. So, but basically it encompasses all of the dark emotions that we might have, whether it's grief or despair or fear or anger or hopelessness. Any of these kinds of emotional responses fall into these categories of solastalgia and eco-despair. And so to give a small example, to give you an idea of this from my personal life, there was a house on a fairly good sized lot near where I live, where they tore down the house, and then they cut down all the trees. And there had been quite a few trees on that lot. And I could just feel the sadness and the despair that launched in me. And that was just one tiny little lot of land, as opposed to, half the Amazon or something. So hearing about these things can just bring up within us all kinds of emotions. And so then we also may feel powerless. Like, what can we do? We might not have any idea what we can do. And so a lot of people then get stuck there in that situation of, it's upsetting, I don't know what to do, and then there's just despair. So this is something that's just becoming more and more common. And so the questions become like this session is on sustainability, and this is really about sustainability of our spirits, of our souls, of our sense of well-being for ourselves and for those with whom we come in contact through our work. And so the question becomes like, how do we manage our own emotions? How do we respond to and acknowledge the emotions of those, not just ourselves, but those around us and those with whom we work? And how do we remain resilient in the face of what we see and hear and learn? And part of it is even just starting with this acknowledgement that this is real. But this is the area that we're going to begin to explore, like, what is this? What responses do we have? How do we remain resilient? There are lots of different answers. It's kind of personal, and yet there are also universals about this that can touch us no matter who we are or where we are, just our very sense of being human. So I'm delighted to have three of my colleagues with us who are going to, we're going to be breaking into smaller groups, and each one of us is then going to lead the smaller group where there'll be opportunity for you to interact and share too. So you will end up with either with myself or with Tallessyn Zawn Grenfell-Lee, who's a United Methodist Climate Resilience Chaplain in the greater Boston area, formerly a molecular biologist, and she was at the seminary at Boston University. And she has her PhD in ecological ethics. And she also teaches, preaches, and writes about intersections of grief, ecofeminism, nature connection, permaculture, and ethics. And Rabbi Moshe Givental is the founder of Water from the Rock, Eco-Chaplaincy, and Environmental Education. He has a master's in clinical psychology and ordination from the Non-Denominational Rabbinical School of Hebrew College in Boston. And he resides in the Metro Detroit area and works with communities of faith and grassroots organizers on issues of environmental and climate disruption and injustice. And Reverend Dr. Ian Mevorach is the founding minister of the Common Street Spiritual Center in Natick, Massachusetts, a love-centered community that values many spiritual paths and is a hub for environmental justice and peace activism. He's an ordained American Baptist minister and holds an MDiv and a PhD in ecological theology and ethics from Boston University, and is a facilitator of the Work That Reconnects, a form of eco-spirituality rooted in the teachings of Joanna Macy. So these are your potential facilitators in the smaller groups, and now I'm turning it over to our host to send us off into the smaller groups.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Rabbi Allen. So what is going to happen is we have broken everybody up into 4 groups. There's about 25 people in each. There is 1 moderator per group. And what will happen is a pop-up will occur that will move you in. And then feel free to speak. If you want to stay on mute, that's your choice. And then I'm going to open it up now. And when we are done, which will be about 20 minutes from now, we'll bring everybody back and we'll have a discussion then. And please stick around. We'll have sessions throughout the rest of the day. All right, good luck. Have a good discussion. And you should be back from your breakout groups now. I will hand things over to Rabbi Allen to finish our session.
Well, thank you. I just want to invite at this point a little bit of, if people from different groups, if there's something that you'd like to share that really struck you, or that something that you feel like you learned, or something that you just want to share with the rest of the group, this is a time for a little bit of sharing in the bigger group here to just kind of bring all this together. So there's a
someone has a hand raised. I might just unmute this person quickly.
Okay. Yeah, if anybody wants to speak, you can just raise your hand.
770MO.
Yeah, okay, 7770MO, did you have something you wanted to share?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's all right.
Maybe I could share a
report
back from our group.
Yep, that would be great.
One of the major trends from our group was people sharing the feelings that they have related to government inaction or deception around environmental destruction, also corporate activities that seem destructive, may be supported by the government. So I'm seeing in my group, people have, that could be a locus of feelings of eco-anxiety relating to government action, inaction, corporate action, inaction. And I'm thinking, can we also use that and then open up a space even more where we then get into talking about kind of even deeper levels of grief, not only government action or inaction, but the losses that stand behind that, the destruction itself, and what happens when we process that.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you. So, and from our group, one of the things that came out was the importance of finding a pathway and a type of action that works for you, where you feel like you're making some kind of a difference, that's a real powerful tool for channeling the emotions and sort of being able to get past the point of being really angry or really sad, and not that those emotions are necessarily going to go away, but being able to come to a place where you're able to work with other people more easily. Would somebody like from the other two groups like to share? Tallessyn or Moshe, you want to share from your group? Okay, Tallessyn.
Sure, thanks, Katie. We talked about the foundation of a resilient mindset for the resilience that we need to do in terms of the practical and strategic engagement. And we talked a bit about aspects of the resilient mindset. And then we worked through, I kind of offered a 3-minute breathing space practice, which comes from the book, The Mindful Way Through Depression. John Kabat-Zinn, I think it's John, was one of the, anyway, last name Kabat-Zinn is a famous Buddhist author who is one of the 4 authors of this book. And so anybody who wants to find and use that resource, it just can help ground people throughout the day about a variety of things, the pandemic, the climate, or anything else that's causing anxiety or destabilization or grief or suffering. And so we kind of walked through that 3-minute breathing space practice, and some people shared that they found it to be a helpful tool to have in the kind of toolkit. Or
thank you. And Moshe, you want to share about your group?
Yeah, I think our discussion was pretty similar to Reverend Mevorach's discussion of the anger and frustration of inaction and the misuse of money and resources. And we also talked a bit about how we ourselves cycle through all the feelings on a regular basis, and sometimes we feel them intensely. Some people feel them more intensely and others less so, but we definitely have people in our lives that feel these things very intensely. In particular, we talked a bit about young folks organizing through Fridays for the Future, and the intensity of energy and emotion shared there, and as well as an Extinction Rebellion. Which of course have their positives as well as challenges to expressing emotions that intensely.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we need to end in a minute or two, so I just want to thank everybody for sharing what you shared. I think the important piece that we have done here is to put all this on the table for you to have in your mind as you're going through the rest of the sessions, and just to acknowledge this, keep it in the back of your mind, the front of your mind, but allow yourself to deal with whatever kinds of emotions that you might have, and to find other people who are also on this same page and help them and work with them. So we're going to close just with a word or two of a message of idea for going forward. And so, Moshe, would you like to begin, please? You need to unmute yourself.
That is vital. I'm going to share 2 thoughts. One is that however we and our families and our communities are doing right now, and as much as the pandemic specifically is in some ways unprecedented in our lifetime, that actually very large scale crises have happened in all previous generations. And so we have it within ourselves from our ancestors who have survived all the things that they survived. We physically have it in our bodies, in our genes, the resilience to be able to overcome and to build and rebuild through whatever is happening. And I invite you to remind yourself that, as well as other people that are in deep crisis. And I want to make a note about this moment of pandemic in a context of climate change. So someone in my group brought up that the climate change and sustainability discussion is being moved to the side as we deal with pandemic. And I think the pandemic can actually be really pivotal in organizing climate action. in the form of bringing to people's eyes that kinds of societal disruption that we are definitely going to see more and more of without sustained action in a way that's much harder to deny. So if we can link people's experiences of the pandemic to the reality of climate disruption, then perhaps that can be a powerful lever towards creating even more energetic coalitions to move things forward.
Thank you. Tallessyn?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just gonna share from my tradition, which is Methodism. Then the founder, John Wesley, basically said that anything we think of as sin is actually what he called disease in need of healing. And I think that's a really compassionate way to look at things. When we react to things in ways that we don't think are helpful, which part of us is suffering and broken and in need of healing? When people around us are reacting in ways that are not helpful or that are causing pain, what parts of them are broken or wounded and in need of healing and compassion? And our world obviously is suffering and in need of compassion and healing. And I find that that framework can just evoke a kind of compassionate response for ourselves and for one another. These kinds of pandemic situations can put people in their hindbrains, and then instead of really reacting from a grounded place, we can kind of react from a place of fear. And so I hope that we can just find the compassion to, you know, the way if a little child fell down and scraped their knee and were running towards you crying, you would respond with open arms and an embrace. And I think that's how we should be trying to respond to our own wounds and to the wounds of the world.
Thank you. Ian?
Final idea would be, for me, resiliency for activists and practitioners working on the healing of the world might look like learning to live with having big feelings about the destruction of the environment, learning to live and carry over a long period sustained feelings of tremendous grief, anger, even rage, and to find a way to befriend these powerful emotions that we indeed should have. Insofar as we're not having the emotions, we're stuck in a framework of denial that will keep the patterns going. So I think we need spaces, community spaces, support to cultivate and befriend these very big emotions, which we then have to learn how to routinely access and tap into for powerful responses. Furthermore, we need to coordinate these emotions amongst each other. In the activist circles we have to cultivate a large and powerful sense of feeling and learn how to hold that in constructive fashion and channel that towards healing work. Not let it derail us to some kind of destructive behavior, but to skillfully hold and cultivate and access these emotions. We need those.
Thank you to all of you. So thank you for coming, everyone, and just may you be strong, may you be compassionate, may you find courage, and you continue in the work that you do for helping to sustain and heal our planet and all that it contains. Thank you very much.
And big thank you very much also from me for all of you, Rabbi Katy, Rabbi Moshe, Tallessyn, and Reverend Ian. This was wonderful. I will quickly say a few words about the next session that will start in about 5 minutes. We are going to focus on 101 on sustainable investment. So everyone have a short break and see you again in 5 minutes. Thank you very, very much for this session.